The UK government has pledged a comprehensive compensation package for the victims of the infected blood scandal, described as the worst treatment disaster in the history of the National Health Service. This comes a day after a public inquiry found that the government and the NHS were culpable with evidence of a cover-up. More than 30,000 people were infected from 1970 to 1991 by contaminated blood products and transfusions. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has issued an apology and promised compensation with no limit to the total cost. Well, let's talk to Kate Burt, the Chief Executive of the Haemophilia Society. Kate, welcome. What's your reaction to this report?
Well, it was a seismic day yesterday in London with the publication of the Infected Blood Inquiry report. It's taken 4 decades of campaigning to get to that day, and I know members of the public in the UK will be deeply shocked by its findings. The Prime Minister yesterday called it a national day of shame for the British state, but unfortunately everybody in the haemophilia and bleeding disorder community have known for 4 decades that wrong was done and that it was covered up. So we weren't shocked, but we were very relieved that the report has vindicated the campaigners.
As you say, it's a decades-long scandal. In brief, how did this happen?
In the 1970s, we were not self-sufficient in a domestic blood and blood product supply. The World Health Organization had already issued warnings about the creation of plasma pools, that they should be limited to at most 20 donors. However, the UK government took the decision to start importing blood products from overseas, and mainly from the United States of America, which had a dangerously unregulated donation system where they were paying people to donate their blood, targeting prisons in Louisiana and Arkansas, and pooling plasma from tens of thousands of donors. And all it would take is one donor to have a virus such as hepatitis or HIV for the entire pool to be contaminated. People with haemophilia and bleeding disorders need to have infusions maybe 1 or 2 times a week to help their blood clot. So essentially, we were importing poisoned blood and giving it to people with haemophilia and other bleeding disorders and condemning them to almost certain infection.
The UK government has finally earmarked perhaps £10 billion for compensation, but can any payout ever really compensate for the loss of life?
It can't. 6,000 people with haemophilia and bleeding disorders were infected. Many more members of the public were infected through blood transfusions in hospitals. 3,000 people have died so far, and people are dying every week. Parents lost children, children lost parents, husbands, wives. People died in the most horrible of circumstances. And through all of that time, the government was telling us that no wrong had been done. Yesterday, that was proved to be a lie.
The UK has a special phrase for sad occasions like this, where everyone in officialdom, politicians, civil servants, doctors and the pharmaceutical industry get together, wring their hands and all say sorry. The phrase is, "This will not happen again." That's what they say. Are you confident something like this won't?
I think the only way that a repetition of such a disaster can be avoided is if there is a major change to the way the institutions of power, including government, the civil service, and institutions like the National Health Service, interact with the people that they are here to serve. We have a paternalistic culture in the UK that has got to change, and the fact that saving reputations and saving money rather than saving lives was seen as more important has to change. It's a moment where the culture of the UK has to shift.
Kate, thank you for your time. Kate Burt, the Chief Executive of the Haemophilia Society.